about that time once again to give you some Denver Broncos trade candidates. I'm not talking about players that the Denver Broncos could trade for. I'm talking about 3 players the Broncos currently have that they could trade away to get more draft capital. Welcome in Broncos country to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. Now, before I get into my 3 trade candidates, name a player that you would trade before the trade deadline. Because remember, once the trade deadline hits and that time is passed, you can no longer make any moves. So the time to trade players is before the trade deadline, which is November 5th or week 9 of the 2025 NFL season. Let's get into our first trade candidate. Probably the most obvious out of all of them, John Franklin Myers. I'm not going to lie to you. He has not been good in 2025. Had a great 2024 season. But 2025, he just kind of feels like he's a guy on the roster. In fact, did you know he's only got 1 tackle? Like, that's it. And if this continues, if this type of play continues, he won't have any trade market. So he needs to start playing better, not only if he wants his massive contract that he's been clamoring on social media for, but he absolutely needs to do it just to have a job. Like, nobody will trade for you if you end up playing as poorly as you're currently playing for the Denver Broncos right now. Excuse me. Lost my train of thought there. So let's talk about what John Franklin Myers' statistics look like right now. Because as of right now, like I said, he's only got 1 tackle. Well, he's got 0 tackles for loss. He's got 0 sacks, and he has got a PFF grade of 54.8 in 2 games played. This sucks. Period. It's just not good. And last year, we saw this guy get after the quarterback, stop the run, put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, break through offensive lines, and he just has not been nearly good enough so far. And shout out to my friend Bossman Jay as well, who has noticed this, and I kind of noticed it a little bit too when I was going back and watching the tape. There's plays he's just given up. Like, he just clearly shows like he just doesn't want to get in on every single play. And you could look at that and go, well, yeah, he wants to get paid. Well, you do know that in order to get paid, you got to go out and prove that you're worth getting paid. You can't go off of what you did in 2024. It's a what have you done for me lately league. He's still reporting that he wants $20 million per year. Well, not right now. You ain't getting that right now. Not with 1 tackle in 2 games. Hell, that might not even be worth $5 million a year. So my trade idea for John Franklin Myers would be, as of right now, there's only a bad team that would be interested in going for him. Because bad teams go after desperation attempts. The Carolina Panthers have shown this multiple times. So the Panthers, in my JFM trade idea, is John Franklin Myers goes to Carolina and the Denver Broncos get a 2026 fifth-round pick. If you remember, the Broncos only traded away a 6th-round pick to the New York Jets in this year's draft for JFM. I think you could fleece out the Carolina Panthers for a 2026 fifth-round pick this year. So if that's the case, if this is the deal that's on the table, I send him off. I put the rookie in, Savion Jones. Let's see what he's got. And it makes sense for the Panthers as well. They've got $17.9 million in cap space. Their defense sucks. They've got no defensive line. And he's a big-time name. He's a name that you could end up going out and paying if you were to give him a contract extension at the end of the year. So let me ask you this question really quick. Would you make this trade if it was offered by the Carolina Panthers today? Yes or no? I would make it in a heartbeat. Absolutely. I think this is a very easy trade to make. And you're going to find that in this episode, I'm going to give you my trade ideas for every single player I have listed on this list. So JFM to the Panthers for a 5th. I make that deal. Let me know in the comment section down below. Let's go to our second one. Jaleel McLaughlin. I know. I don't want to trade Jaleel. He's Peyton's guy. We love Jaleel. Well, you guys know he hasn't had a carry yet, right? Tyler Bidet is your RB3, and he should be. He balled out, played way better than Jaleel did in the preseason. Jaleel was like your RB4 or RB5 in the preseason. There was only a couple of times when he came in as the RB3, and Bidet came in and played outstanding throughout the preseason. He earned the RB3 spot. So just take a look at the Broncos running back room. J.K. Dobbins is your clear number one right now, even over the likes of R.J. Harvey. Harvey comes in on specific packages as a lead back, but for the most part, it's J.K. Dobbins. So if Dobbins is your one, Harvey's your two, and Tyler Bidet is your RB3, it looks like Jaleel McLaughlin could be considered your emergency running back. Well, here's another point. The Broncos have Deuce Vaughn on the practice squad. So if you really needed somebody to be an emergency running back, why not make it a guy who plays a lot like Darren Sproles, a player that played for Sean Payton in New Orleans, who Payton loved? Fit that Joker mold that Peyton's always talking about. So if it comes down to who can be your RB4, that emergency running back, I think it's a pick and choose sort of deal. You also have to take into consideration there are a ton of other teams that are desperate for running back help. I'll just say it, the Chicago Bears. If for whatever reason Ryan Poles, the GM for the Chicago Bears, decides that he's in a buyer's market and wants to go out and get a running back, Jaleel could be an excellent addition to the Bears running back room. They've got DeAndre Swift and nobody else. So in my trade scenario, I've got Jaleel McLaughlin going to the Chicago Bears for a 2026 7th round pick. For a fourth-string running back, you're not going to get anything higher than this. It's just the truth. And the fact that he's on the 53-man roster right now, you can't go and sign him off the practice squad. So unless the Broncos delegate him down there, he's stuck on the 53 not doing anything. The Bears would be the ones that I would have to call up and say, okay, we'll give you a 7th-round pick. It might not even be a this year's 7th-round pick. It might be a next year's 7th-round pick. Either way, it makes sense for the Chicago Bears, both from a schematic standpoint and a financial standpoint. They got $9.7 million in cap space. Jaleel's only taken up about $1.2 million. It just makes sense for all parties involved. Now, before I get to my last trade candidate, which, by the way, you might consider a doozy. I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to tell you about my friends over at Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but at Prize Picks, you can actually get paid to be right. It's very simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. Join millions of users and sign up today. How does it work? Very easily put. Here is what my lineup looks like, comboed with professional baseball and football for this weekend. Your picks could look just like this if you're a glutton and you like to take the more like me, or if you like to go less and be a little bit more conservative. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup with code CLNS. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Our final trade candidate, Riley Moss. Okay. Before you guys crucify me for listing Riley Moss as a trade candidate, you just got to hear me out. I believe there is a way that you could package this to make it make sense for everybody. So let's start with this. I think Riley Moss has shown enough this season to garner sticking as the Denver Broncos outside corner. He really has. He's played well. He got beat on a couple of really bad plays against the Colts. But for the most part, when you see the statistics, he's been very good. Here's why I say he is a trade candidate. You drafted Jahdae Barron, who can absolutely play the outside corner role. And you still have Chris Abrams-Drain, who had an unbelievable preseason. Somebody that I believe if you put him in, he could be just as good as Riley Moss. This depth for the Denver Broncos at corner is so great, you could absolutely move one player and never, ever miss a beat. And Riley Moss, like I said, from a statistical standpoint, has been great. 12 tackles, 3 PBUs already. No picks, but a coverage grade of 63.4, which is all right. It's pretty good. It's not great. It's not elite, but it's not bad either. Moss has an opposing QBR, or quarterback rating, of 75.4, which is outstanding. So when other quarterbacks are targeting Riley Moss, 75.4. That's ridiculously good. However, it was not just 3 weeks ago that another media member proposed a trade for Riley Moss and said this would make a lot of sense for one NFC team. Here's what they say. The Broncos have one of the NFL's better defenses and are loaded with talent at the cornerback position. The team could clear up roster space and add future assets by dealing Riley Moss, a 2023 third-round pick, to the Cowboys this offseason. I'll start by saying this before I get into why that makes sense for the Dallas Cowboys. You have to have talent to be considered a trade candidate. If a player wasn't good enough, you couldn't get traded for. That just doesn't make sense. If a player wasn't good enough, they'd just be cut. So you have to be a talented player in order to be considered tradable. Does that make sense? Good. I'm glad we're on the same page. Now, I'm not saying that Riley Moss has been bad. He's been pretty decent, pretty good. The problem is that you've got so much talent. You've got Jahdae Barron, who needs his shot. You got Jaquan McMillan you could put in the nickel corner. And you have Chris Abrams-Drain if you didn't want to do anything differently except get rid of Riley Moss, where he could plug him in, and he'd be just as good, in my opinion. So what does the Moss trade idea look like? Well, I don't know that the Cowboys would be able to give up a third because they don't have a third in the 2026 draft. But what they do have is a fourth and a sixth, which I believe could compensate for that third-round pick. So you get the fourth, which is one later, and they sweeten the pot a little bit by giving us a sixth-round pick. So 2 picks for Riley Moss, who was a third-round pick. And again, Riley Moss has been good, not great. You have the opportunity now, if you're the Denver Broncos, to really see what Jahdae Barron's got. You have the opportunity to see what Chris Abrams-Drain has. And you know what you've got in Jaquan McMillan. So you could put a different rotation of all 3 of those players and figure out the best rotation for the Denver Broncos. So let me ask you this question. You'll probably say K for keep. But if you think that this is a trade that you would make based off of everything that I just said, let me know in the comment section down below. T for trade or K for keep. I don't know that if the Cowboys came to me and said, we'll give you a fourth and a sixth, that I wouldn't consider it. I'm just posing up the hypothetical. All right. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Like the video if you haven't. And as always, Broncos country, be cool.